Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're taking a stack of cutting-edge research and reports, and we're going to map out this quiet revolution happening in our digital lives. We're peering into a fundamental, almost philosophical shift in how we socialize online, moving away from the massive, centralized giants
Right.
and towards something smaller, more intimate, and, entirely within our control.
It's a profound tension, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, while you have this handful of enormous platforms still dominating global attention, the data really shows a clear pattern.
Yeah.
Users, particularly younger ones, they're actively seeking out and frankly fleeing to smaller, highly curated digital spaces.
Fleeing is a strong word, but maybe accurate.
Well, they're looking for genuine connection, right?
Yeah.
Not just an algorithmically managed broadcast system.
Exactly. And I keep coming back to that 2019 declaration by Mark Zuckerberg. The future is private.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
At the time, it felt, pretty ironic coming from the head of the world's largest public square. But you fast forward to today, and our sources absolutely confirm that this predicted rise of the private social network isn't just a theory anymore.
No, it's real.
It's a measurable reality, and it's driven by some profound user dissatisfaction.
Well, the central problem, I think, is that the traditional social network model, the one built on maximizing engagement and attention,
Yeah.
and it's just fundamentally broken when it comes to trust
Yeah.
and user identity.
How so?
Well, when your business model requires you to be big and open and, let's face it, addictive, you just can't simultaneously be safe and small and candid. It's a conflict.
Right.
And users are demanding safer, more controlled environments where they feel they can actually be themselves without, feeling constantly scrutinized or, frankly, sold to.
Okay, so if that's the problem, what's the revolutionary solution we're dissecting today?
It's really a marriage of necessity and innovation, defined by the rise of these privately run social networks, but delivered really efficiently through this model known as Social Network as a Service, or SNACE.
Fatness, got it. So our mission today is to explore this technological liberation. We're going to focus heavily on how these new decentralized protocols enable user control, and then demonstrate how SNACE solutions like Linkspreed, which is a key example we'll dig into, are making it possible for non-developers, regular organizations or groups.
Right, people without coding skills.
Exactly, to set up their own secure, white-label social network right in the cloud in mere seconds without writing a single line of code. That's the promise.
And that's the democratization of the infrastructure itself, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, to truly grasp how we move from just a handful of centralized monopolies to potentially thousands of functional private niche networks,
Yeah.
we need to analyze the specific underlying technical architecture. We're talking protocols, data rights, and these no-code deployment mechanisms that are making user autonomy actually feasible and scalable right now.
Okay, let's unpack this enormous pivot then, starting with that deep wound at the heart of the centralized model, the trust deficit.
Yeah, the failure of these centralized giants.
Yeah.
It isn't just about, say, bad moderation or clumsy policy. It's really rooted deep in their economic incentive structure.
Okay.
When your revenue is tied directly to keeping eyeballs glued to the screen for as long as possible, well, the platform's success becomes entirely divorced from the user's well-being.
And the sources we looked at are very clear on what this attention economy actually selects for.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't select for nuance or education or, long-term knowledge goods. Instead, it just systematically rewards content that triggers these primal, raw emotions. We're talking fear, envy, anger.
Hatred, distrust, all the strong stuff. That's the core mechanic at play. If you're running A/B tests on engagement, which they all are,
Constantly.
you quickly discover that content generating outrage, or maybe promoting some wild conspiracy theory, often drives, say, 3 times the engagement compared to neutral or educational content.
3 times. Wow.
Yeah, in terms of shares, comments, time spent just dwelling on the post. So the algorithm, really by its very design, it overproduces divisive speech and these conspiracy theories, because that's what drives the clicks and ultimately the revenue.
So it becomes a vicious cycle.
Absolutely. And this profit-driven incentive structure leads right into the second major failure. These platforms stop being simple services and they become, unelected, unaccountable arbiters of global public discourse.
That's a heavy role.
It is. Think about the complexity of content moderation. These major social media companies, they operate worldwide. Their policies on what counts as hate speech or misinformation or acceptable political commentary, They're incredibly detailed, mind-numbingly so,
And it's
sometimes.
constantly changing.
Right. And these are essentially content-based regulations that if a government tried to impose them, say the U.S. government telling citizens what they can and cannot post based on political content, it would be immediately unconstitutional.
No question. First Amendment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yet, because these are private economic actors, they can enforce these rules. And they do,
Yeah.
effectively curating public opinion on a massive scale with absolutely no public oversight.
It's the ultimate paradox of the free internet, isn't it?
It really is. And users, especially the younger generations, they are reacting to this toxic controlled environment. Our data shows a really compelling generational shift.
What's it showing?
Social media users under 30 are actively fleeing these major public arenas. They're seeking out tighter, smaller, more intentional communities where they feel safe enough to be truly candid and authentic.
So away from the broadcast, like you said, and towards real communication.
Precisely. And this migration gives rise to this specialized niche success model. When entrepreneurs look to build new networks today, the goal isn't necessarily reaching 1 billion users anymore.
Right.
It's about providing an indispensable service to a hyper-specific audience.
And we found a fantastic example of that kind of specialization, Fisherbrain.
Oh, yeah, great example.
This isn't some general interest app. It's a social network designed exclusively for fishing enthusiasts, anglers.
Right.
It lets them share catches, techniques, and crucially, localize fishing forecasts. And by focusing so intensely on this niche,
They grew massively, didn't they?
yeah, from under 100,000 users to over 15 million anglers. 15 million.
And that success just demonstrates the viability of this, let's call it decentralized model. If you're serving the exact 15 million people who care about, I don't know, optimal lure depth for local conditions,
Specific stuff.
very specific stuff, you don't need to compete with Facebook on scale. You compete on relevance and trust. And this is reflected in the diverse business models we're seeing emerge now.
Like what?
Well, everything from nonprofit social community models focused purely on social benefit to this emerging digital product model, where the platform itself, SAN as we mentioned, is sold as a maintained, secure product, which completely removes the need for user data monetization.
So it's an escape route, both from the toxicity and the surveillance. And that ties into that broader socio-political context, right?
Yep.
The debate over whether social media should be democratically run or privately run.
Exactly. The prevailing system, dominated by just a few powerful economic actors, is often criticized because it systematically underproduces the kind of knowledge goods that support a healthy democracy,
Yeah.
while simultaneously overproducing all that divisive, low-effort speech that just profits the platform.
So the rise of the private niche community is, in a way, a kind of decentralized democratic response,
Wow.
creating these trusted micro-markets safe from the tyranny of the attention economy.
I think that's a fair way to put it. It shifts the burden of trust from some external profit-driven entity back to the community itself. But now we need to ask the crucial question. How do we actually build these private distributed communities without having to trust yet another central corporation with all the plumbing?
Right. The how. That's the critical pivot, isn't it? If the motivation is mistrust and this desire for genuine control, the solution has to be technical.
It does. And open source and decentralized platforms offer that path. They use technologies like federated networks and, in some cases, consensus systems to essentially strip central authorities of their control over user data and content.
And we're already seeing a pretty vibrant ecosystem of alternatives out there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You've got Mastodon, Minds, Bluesky, PixelFed, even Vero.
Vero, right.
Uh-huh.
They market themselves specifically on addressing those core failures of the incumbents, don't they?
Exactly. No advertisements, no data mining, no manipulative algorithms. They're basically selling an experience based on the absence of the features that make the giants feel so toxic.
Okay, so the most prominent example of this architectural shift, the one people hear about most, is probably the federated system, or what many call the Fediverse, with Mastodon kind of at its center.
Right. And unlike traditional networks where everyone's operating on one massive server farm owned by one company,
Yeah.
the Fediverse is composed of thousands of interconnected but independent servers. They call them instances.
Instances.
Okay. And as a user, you choose an instance that aligns with your community values, or maybe your preferred moderation style, or even just your geographic location.
And this architecture, it yields a really crucial benefit, especially for content creators, influencers, even just regular users, and that's mobility.
Oh, huge, yeah. On a traditional network, if you decide to leave, you're abandoning your entire social graph. Your followers, your archives, your identity, it's all gone.
It's platform lock-in.
Totally.
Mm.
The Fediverse removes that fear. A user can actually migrate their account to an entirely different server without losing their followers.
Wow.
Because the underlying protocol allows for that seamless transfer. That's critical.
I remember trying to leave one platform years ago, and the thought of losing my entire professional archive.
Ooh.
It was genuinely paralyzing.
I bet.
So the Fediverse solves that by making your identity and your graph portable. But
Yeah.
how does this communication actually flow across thousands of separate, independently run servers? That seems complex.
It does, but that's where the plumbing of ActivityPub comes in. ActivityPub. It's the official W3C protocol, the worldwide web consortium standard that defines how these decentralized server-to-server interactions happen. Think of it as the common language these distinct instances use to talk to each other and, importantly, confirm identity.
Okay, let's try and break down the core mechanics then. ActivityPub uses something called the actor model, which is basically the user.
Right. Each actor or user has an IMB box and an OUTBOX, conceptually. Anyway,
Sure.
when you post a status update, you're posting to your OUTBOX.
Okay.
When you view your feed, you're essentially reading stuff that's arrived in your IMBX. Pretty simple on the surface.
Okay. OUTBOX is sending, IMBX is receiving. Makes sense.
Exactly. Now, the real magic happens with what's called federation. That's the server-to-server communication bit.
Right.
When Alyssa, who's an actor on server A, posts a message, her server uses the ActivityPub server-to-server protocol to distribute that message. It doesn't just stay on server A.
So it goes out.
It POSTs the message object directly to the IMBBox of Ben, who's an actor over on server B, if Ben happens to be following Alyssa.
Ah, okay. So the servers talk directly to push updates to followers on other servers.
Precisely. And the message object itself is highly standardized. It's defined using something called activity streams. This isn't just a random blob of text.
No.
No, it's a structured piece of data. It might say something like, Alyssa just performed the create action on a note object, or Ben performed the like action on a video object.
Very specific.
Very. And all federated servers have to agree on this common structure. That ensures immediate interoperability, regardless of what the front-end interface looks like on server A or server B.
That makes sense. You need a common language.
You do. And authentication is key here too, and often overlooked. Because remember, server A and server B are independent entities. They don't inherently trust each other.
Right. How do you stop spoofing?
Cryptographic signing. When Alyssa's server sends that message to Ben's server, it signs the activity with its private key. Ben's server can then verify that signature using the sending server's public key.
Oh, okay. Public key cryptography.
Exactly. That confirms the message is authentic and hasn't been tampered with in transit. That's how the federated system maintains trust without needing some big central moderator overseeing everything.
That is robust.
Yeah.
Okay. And this ActivityPub Fediverse model, it's just one approach, right? We also saw a mention of the Decentralized Social Networking Protocol, or DSNP. That sounds different.
It is a different architectural approach, yeah.
Yeah.
DSNP aims to solve this problem of data ownership at an even deeper level. It's often built around consensus systems, rather than the ActivityPub model of direct server-to-server interaction.
Consensus systems, like blockchain or distributed ledgers.
Often, yes. Or similar technologies. Instead of relying on your current service provider's server to store your social graph, your list of followers and who you follow,
Yeah.
DSNP models the social graph using events that are emitted onto this consensus system. Think of it like recording your follow actions on a shared immutable ledger.
Okay, that sounds kind of abstract. Why is modeling the social graph on a consensus system better than just letting it sit in my service provider's database?
Because a consensus system means no single entity owns or controls that graph data. It's shared. If your social graph exists as this immutable list of events recorded on a shared ledger, that data has inherent portability and longevity.
So if the service provider I'm using right now shuts down.
Exactly. Your core identity and your relationship, your followers remain intact and accessible. Any other client or application that conforms to the DSNP standard could potentially read that graph data and reconstruct your network.
Okay, that fundamentally addresses those 6 core aspects DSNP focuses on, right?
Yeah.
Agency.
Agency, privacy, authenticity, portability, using that common data format on the consensus system, usability, and extensibility.
Yeah. It ensures users maintain direct control over their follow relationships, completely independent of whatever service provider they happen to be logged into at the moment.
That's the idea. The data itself defines the relationship, not the application layer sitting on top.
And messaging, how does that work?
It's modeled similarly, usually as broadcast event announcements on the consensus system, which then often link to the actual content, maybe stored securely on public file servers like IPFS or something similar. This creates a cryptographic chain of trust right back to the originating identity.
So the data is always accessible, portable, and verifiable by any conforming client. That's a powerful concept.
It is. It's a different way of thinking about where your online identity actually lives.
Okay, so we've established the motivation is trust, the technology is decentralized protocols like ActivityPub or DSNP, but this all remains pretty academic if only expert developers can spin up a Mastodon instance or configure DSNP, right?
Absolutely. That's a huge barrier.
And this brings us to what feels like the true linchpin of this movement towards private digital spaces. Social network as a service, or SNOS, it basically solves the usability problem.
It really does. And SNOS is, well, it's a logical progression within that whole everything as a service transaction.
Right. SOS, IA, POS.
Exactly. We've had software as a service, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and now, with cloud architecture being so mature, we have the ability to package the incredibly complex process of running a secure, scalable social network into a simple, maintainable subscription product.
So in the pre-SOS world, if, say, a corporation or maybe a city wanted its own private intranet or community platform.
They were looking at a deep rabbit hole,
Yeah.
a very expensive one.
Yeah. Custom development teams, massive upfront capital, months, maybe years of design, and then continuous maintenance forever.
Right. The no-code revolution, delivered via SNOS, just changes the economics entirely. It offers rapid deployment with minimal initial investment.
It really democratizes the capability, doesn't it?
Completely. It shifts the barrier to entry from potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars in custom engineering down to a simple subscription fee and some configuration choices. Click, click, done.
And this is how these niche platforms can actually achieve their unique selling proposition, like Fisherbrain. They can focus all their resources on community engagement, content, moderation rules.
Not on building the underlying database and server architecture from scratch. Someone else handles that heavy lifting.
Okay, so to illustrate this model of rapid, no-code private deployment, let's really focus on Linkspreed. This seems like a prime example.
It is. Their target audience isn't the general public browsing cat videos.
No.
It's precisely those companies, organizations, cities, even clubs that need a secure, dedicated intranet or a highly controlled private community platform.
And their whole ethos, it seems, is built on sustainability and privacy. They use this term Web4 technology.
Yeah, which, okay, Web4 can mean different things, but in their context, it seems to signify a commitment to secure, privacy-first, sustainable cloud solutions, specifically designed to avoid the collection and sale of user data.
Which is a huge differentiator from the Web2 giants.
Massive. And it often avoids some of the speculative hype you sometimes see around Web3 too. It's more practical, focused on private, controlled environments.
And the platform's features seem really tailored to enhance internal loyalty and productivity, almost turning a company's internal comms into a functional social network.
Exactly. Employees can set up detailed profiles that automatically facilitates networking. Managers can quickly find the perfect person for a project based on internal expertise, skills, even availability shown on the platform.
And crucially, Linkspreed seems focused on structured knowledge sharing.
Yes. It allows for creating internal blogs, moderated forums, using hashtags effectively.
Yeah.
Basically transferring that institutional knowledge quickly and efficiently, moving away from chaotic email threads or documents lost on shared drives.
Building a searchable, living database of internal expertise, that sounds valuable.
Very. And the ease of deployment they tout is,
Yeah.
well, astonishing if true.
Yeah, they have this developer testimonial saying they never had to write a single line of code for their corporate intranet, even though it was a complex system.
Right. That demonstrates the potential for, say, a non-technical community manager, or maybe someone in HR, to launch a high-functioning internal network. And Linkspreed promises this can happen in mere seconds in the cloud.
Seconds, that's ambitious.
It is, but it highlights the core SNOS value proposition: speed and simplicity.
And the business model reinforces this enterprise focus, right? No advertising at all.
Correct. Pricing is flexible, based strictly on the number of active users. They have tiers like Mini for 125 users, Medium for 25-100, Enterprise for 100+ NES.
And the price includes everything: features, support, updates, White labeling.
Apparently so,
Mm.
with only the actual web hosting costs calculated separately. That structure is the very definition of selling a decentralized community tool as a plug-and-play digital product.
Okay, so we have the user demand for privacy, we have the decentralized protocols like ActivityPub, and now we have the simplified Synos deployment model like Linkspreed, making it accessible. But there's a regulatory framework that's supposed to assist this shift, right? The right to data portability.
Ah, yes. GDPR, Article 20.
And that, it turns out, might be the hardest piece to actually execute effectively.
Indeed. While technical solutions like ActivityPub can enable pretty seamless migration between similar federated servers, getting your data out of one of the centralized giants is primarily regulated by the EU's GDPR Article 20, the right to data portability.
And the intent of Article 20 seems noble enough. Grant consumers the right to export their data, import it elsewhere, and even request the direct transfer of their personal data between controllers, between social networking services, where technically feasible.
Right. The goal is clear. Reduce those painful switching costs and dramatically increase competition. Make it easy to leave.
But our sources reveal a pretty fascinating discrepancy between that regulatory intent and what users actually experience and even what they want.
Yeah, it's really interesting. There are basically three main methods for data transfer, and users seem highly suspicious of the very method regulators probably hoped would be the gold standard.
Let's look at the numbers from that user survey we reviewed. Only about 16%, 16.13% to be exact, of participants preferred the mandated option. Direct data transfer from the source site straight to the destination site.
16%, that's really low.
Yeah.
Lowest preference.
Yeah. So where did the majority preference go?
Two options that gave the user more perceived control. The highest preference, almost half at 45.16%, was for using OBOth login from the site the user is joining.
Okay, like log in with Google or log in with Facebook, but for joining a new service?
Exactly. They found this the easiest and most convenient method while still feeling like they were in control of initiating the process from the new site.
Okay, and following that.
Following closely, with about 32% preference, was the old-fashioned option, downloading a machine-readable file from the old service and then manually uploading it to the new one.
Manual download, upload. What?
Users explicitly said they preferred this method because it offered perceived control and safety. They felt they could actually look at the data, maybe clean it up, and consciously control the process before handing it over to the new platform.
That speaks volumes about the trust issue, doesn't it?
It's the core psychological insight, I think. Trust is so low in the centralized platforms that users prioritize the perception of control even if it means more manual effort over the convenience of automation.
They fear the source site keeping logs of the transfer or the destination site somehow mismanaging the data during an automated transfer.
Precisely. And you know what? Their fear seems pretty well founded because that technically feasible clause in GDPR, it's proven extremely difficult in practice. Despite the mandate, implementation of direct transfer is often really error-prone. Facebook is actually the only major site offering any direct data transfer, and even its efforts are highly constrained.
How so? It's not like you can transfer your Facebook profile directly to, say, Mastodon.
Exactly. It's not true competition enablement. Facebook only allows direct transfer to about 10 target sites, and none of them are comparable general social networking competitors.
So where can you send it?
You can transfer photos and videos to services like Google Photos or Dropbox, which are basically storage providers, not rival social platforms. The real challenge, transferring complex data like relationship graphs, posts, interactions, that's largely unsolved.
And the testing of this direct transfer process, even for photos, showed technical glitches are common and a major deterrent.
Oh, yeah. Participants in studies reported unexpected and erroneous outcomes, like transferring photos often resulted in the loss of folder structure or important metadata. Worse, sometimes selecting just a subset of data like saying, I only want my profile info transferred, somehow triggered an unintended mass transfer of all their posts. Everything.
That's terrible.
It completely breaks the fragile trust users might have had in the process. The survey showed participants were significantly less likely to even try direct transfer after learning about the possibility of these errors.
The brief convenience just isn't worth the risk of losing or corrupting your entire personal digital archive.
Exactly. And furthermore, even the download option, the one users preferred for control, sometimes that fails to comply fully with GDPR too. Instead of providing the required machine-readable formats like JSON or XML, formats a new service could easily ingest some platforms, still just give you files in non-machine readable formats like HTML or plain TXT files.
So you can read it, but another computer program can't easily parse it.
Right. It forces users into this painful manual data migration process, copying and pasting, or writing custom scripts. It defeats the purpose.
Okay, so the key takeaway here for developers building these new private networks, and maybe for policymakers trying to actually foster competition, what is it?
It seems to be. Shift the focus. Trying to achieve this perfect, monolithic, one-click transfer of everything is currently failing. It's too complex, too error-prone, and users don't trust it anyway.
So instead,
The recommendation is to focus on implementing data portability based on partial overlap between sites. Partition the data. Meaning build robust tools for transferring specific, manageable subsets of data reliably. Let users choose, just transfer my profile data, or just transfer my photos, or just transfer my direct contacts friend list.
make it granular.
Exactly. That increases user control, which they value, and it dramatically improves the technical feasibility for developers on both ends.
So the highest immediate impact would come from improving the reliability of those data subset downloads and uploads.
Yes, ensuring they are always in genuinely machine-readable formats.
And making that oath functionality widely available for initiating transfers from the new site.
Precisely. Align the technical solutions with the user's validated preference for both convenience and control. That seems like the most practical path forward. #outro.
Wow. Okay, so this deep dive has really shown us that this user flight towards private social networks isn't superficial. It's driven by really profound foundational issues.
Yeah, the toxicity of the centralized attention economy and the resulting crisis of trust and data integrity. It's deep-seated.
But the technological solutions are maturing rapidly to meet that demand. We've got these decentralized protocols like ActivityPub and DSMP, ensuring users can finally, potentially, migrate their social graph and content without facing that horrible platform lock-in.
Providing a stable foundation for user-owned identity, or at least user-controlled identity.
And crucially, social network as a service, SNEAS, exemplified by platforms like Linkspreed, is closing that usability gap. It's providing the no-code tools and the cloud simplicity needed to empower non-experts, the club organizers, the small business owners, the city administrators, to launch their own secure, closed, trusted digital spaces.
And potentially in minutes, not months or years.
Yeah, a matter of minutes. It's quite the shift.
The power dynamic is definitely shifting away from that monolithic control. The choice for our digital future is no longer just deciding which massive company's walled garden to live in, but deciding the fundamental model of communication you want. Is it centralized? Is it federated? Is it a private enterprise network? We're watching the mass customization of the social experience unfold, I think.
Okay, so here's our final provocative thought for you, the listener. If non-developers can now launch niche, secure, high-functioning social networks for their specific communities, their organizations, maybe even their cities, in a matter of minutes.
Yeah.
What does this potential explosion of thousands, maybe tens of thousands of small private networks mean for the relevance of that remaining handful of multi-billion user-centralized platforms over, say, the next 5 years?
Will they become sort of inevitable relics, just too large, too toxic, too compromised by their own business model to satisfy that fundamental human need for candid, safe, and genuinely private connection?
Something to think about. Thank you for joining us on The Deep Dive.
See you next time.